We have a very active tornado season just around the corner for 2025, as this year is expected to be another one of those active and very intense tornado seasons. As not only are we going to be starting out this tornado season a completely different way, and it will actually be the complete opposite compared to what we saw last year. And we will also be talking about the potential for possibly tornadoes a little farther to the east than the plains this year, which definitely puts those areas along the Mississippi River at risk for tornadoes, which we will be going over all of what you guys can expect as we get into the tornado season of 2025. But if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications so that way you guys don't miss out on any future videos or live streams that we do on this channel. And I am thinking about doing a spring forecast, so consider subscribing and clicking that notification bell so that way you guys don't miss out on it. But let's first start off by taking a look at the chances of seeing either an El Nino, La Nina, or a neutral phase. And you guys can see how we are indeed dealing with the La Nina as of right now, as those blues are still really high. But as we get into March, April, and May, we are expecting the change over to a neutral phase. I will have anywhere from a 60 to a 70% chance of changing over to a neutral phase, especially as we get into April, May, and June. So this will be something to really keep an eye on very closely as we get into the middle of spring, as we'll first be starting out as a La Nina, like I said, and then we'll be changing over to a neutral phase, which is the complete opposite compared to what we saw last year. And if we look at which areas typically see severe storm with either an El Nino or La Nina, you guys can see that most states west of this line would see severe storm with an El Nino, while areas east of this line would typically see severe storms with La Nina. So it's a little bit of a different story this year, given the fact that we're going to be starting out the complete opposite way compared to last year. Because if you remember, last year we started out as an El Nino and then changed over to a neutral phase, but this year we're going to be starting out as a La Nina and then changing over to a neutral phase. So because we're going to be starting the tornado season a little bit different with a weak La Nina, where exactly will the tornadoes occur? Well, given the fact that we started out with an El Nino last year, that's the reason why areas down here in Texas actually ended up seeing the most tornadoes last year. Now, that doesn't mean we didn't see tornadoes across the Midwest and Ohio Valley. It's just Texas that ended up seeing one of the highest amounts of tornadoes last spring. So it's definitely very interesting how last year did play out, even though it actually did end up being the second worst tornado season on record. But since we're going to be in a La Nina to start this season, I think the tornadoes are going to be a little farther to the east. Not much east, given the fact that we're only going to be in a weak La Nina, but just a little farther to the east, given the fact that we are going to be in a La Nina. Like I said, we're just not going to be in as strong as the La Nina, and that's the reason why we're not expecting storms to be well out to the east. But it is definitely something to really keep an eye on closely, as the track of the storms is looking to really be shifting east closely, and that's exactly the reason why I think the most storms are going to be occurring along the Mississippi River, and this is going to be for March, because like I said, areas over here in the plains ended up seeing tornadoes last year, given the fact that we started out as an El Nino, but because we're starting out the complete opposite way by starting out as a La Nina and then changing over to a neutral phase this year, we're likely going to be seeing those storms be a little farther to the east, and that's the reason why we're expecting March to start out right along the Mississippi River. It's just going to start out a little farther down to the south, given the fact that we're still going to be having some cold air up here to the north that's going to continue to keep some areas over there in the northern United States really cold. But overall, though, we are expecting areas along the Mississippi River, especially Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, even over there in the Mississippi, eastern and western Tennessee, to definitely see those chances for tornadoes this March. And that's the reason why we're going to be watching the start of severe weather season season very closely, as we could even be seeing the chances for tornadoes even up there in the lower Ohio Valley. And then by the time we get into April, you guys can see that the area for tornadoes does start to expand even more as areas farther east, like the lower Ohio Valley and as well as the deep south, could start seeing tornadoes as we get into April. But once again, the focus is still going to be right along the Mississippi River, as we will likely be seeing those chances for tornadoes along that area. And of course, those areas farther to the north, maybe even as far north as Chicago, could definitely be seeing those chances for tornadoes as we get into April. So this is definitely going to be something to really be keeping an eye on very closely, as this could definitely be a very intense area as we get into tornado season. And then the last month is going to be May. This is where I think the most tornadoes are expected to occur. And this is also, what you would typically see in May, as May is usually the most active month of the tornado season, and that's why we're expecting the area of severe weather to really expand, including those areas maybe in as far north as the Twin Cities regions, Green Bay, Wisconsin, even over there into central Michigan, including the Kalamazoo region. Even areas over there in the, Eastern Plains could also experience tornadoes this year. But if you guys look at this red color actually shifts well off to the northeast and also shifts well out here to the west. And that's mainly given the fact that those areas out there to the west are really going to be starting to warm up as we get into May. And that's the reason why this areas for severe weather are likely going to be expanding more and more as we get into later severe weather season. So definitely make sure you guys are paying attention, as I do think May is going to be one of our worst months of the year. But keep in mind though that this is still very uncertain though, as we still don't know exactly how it will play out. But once again, given the fact that we're going to be in a weak La Nina this year, I'm expecting those storms to be a little farther to the east than the plains this year, and that's the reason why the focus is going to especially be those areas along the Mississippi River. Now, here's how I think 2025 will play out. Starting off with the first one, I think we're going to be seeing a near average to slightly above average tornado season this year. The reason why I'm not expecting it to be well above average is because if you guys remember last year was record breaking, and if it continued to get worse from there, that would actually be very unusual, because we don't just see tornado season get worse and worse and worse every year. But we're also going to be starting out as a weak La Nina, which is actually a little bit of a different story compared to last year. So it's something to really keep an eye on very closely, as we could still be slightly above average overall, with maybe around 1,500 tornadoes or something like that. But the other thing is that I am expecting those areas along the Mississippi River to see the most activity during the tornado season this year. So that will be another thing to keep an eye on. And even those areas as far east as the Ohio Valley, and even areas as far east as Missouri, could still experience a lot of tornadoes. And then I think the last part is going to be the thing we really need to keep an eye on, as it looks like not only tornadoes, but also storms could be a lot more intense this year, guys. This is mainly given the fact that for how much moisture, how much energy, and also how much wind shear we're expected to have, and also due to the placements of the jet stream, this could cause severe storms to be a lot more intense this year, and they could even be a lot more long lasting, where they could track anywhere from Oklahoma all the way back over there into the Mississippi Valley, which would be really crazy, guys, because we could be seeing some longer lasting storms this year, but also more long lasting intense tornadoes as well. But even though that's something that we could see this year, we aren't expecting a whole heck amount of tornadoes, but we still will need to be watching it closely, as tornadoes once again do look to be on the intense side of things. So we will be watching 2025 very closely, as it will be another very intense season just around the corner. And once again, I am gonna try to release a spring forecast pretty soon, which I'm not sure when I'm going to release it, but if I do release it, it'll probably be sometime before March, or maybe even at the beginning of March. I'll have to see if I have time to make one, but if I do make one, I'll definitely let you guys know about it, and definitely make sure to subscribe, as I placed a lot of work into making this, and we also haven't been doing a long range forecast for a couple of months, so make sure to subscribe so that way you guys don't miss out on any of my other long range forecasts that we do on this channel. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this. Hope you guys all have a great rest of your weekend. Hope you guys stay safe during this severe weather season, and I hope you guys to see you guys in the next video. Thank you all so much for watching, and goodbye.